The crystal chandeliers cast a warm glow over the Grand Meridian Hotel's private dining room, where 200 of the city's most influential people would gather tomorrow for what my family believed would be the social event of the year. I sat at the far end of the mahogany table, quietly observing my family's animated discussions about wedding preparations, catering details, and the guest list that read like a who's who of local politics and business. The irony wasn't lost on me. They had no idea who actually owned every gleaming surface they were so proud to be celebrating in. "Emma, darling," my Aunt Patricia's voice cut through the chatter like a knife wrapped in silk, "you've been so quiet tonight. Surely you're excited about tomorrow? Michael's wedding will be the talk of the city for months." The entire table turned to look at me. 23 family members, all dressed in designer clothes that cost more than most people's monthly salaries, all wearing expressions that ranged from mild curiosity to barely concealed condescension. I was wearing a simple black dress from Target, my hair pulled back in a basic ponytail, my only jewelry a simple watch that looked like it came from a department store clearance rack. To them I was the family disappointment. The 29-year-old who'd never quite figured her life out, who worked at some vague marketing job, and lived in what they dismissively called that tiny apartment downtown. The one who drove a 7-year-old Honda Civic and bought her clothes at discount stores. The one who'd been systematically excluded from wedding planning discussions because, as my mother had delicately put it, Emma's situation is so different from ours. "I'm very happy for Michael and Sarah," I replied softly, taking a sip of water while they drank champagne that cost more per bottle than my monthly car payment. Michael, resplendent in his custom-tailored tuxedo that probably cost more than my supposed annual income, leaned back in his chair with the confident smile of someone who'd never questioned his place in the world. "You know, Em, I've been meaning to ask, what did you end up getting us for a wedding gift? I know money's tight for you, but Sarah and I are really curious." The question hung in the air like smoke. Conversations at nearby tables. Yes, there were multiple tables because this rehearsal dinner was larger than most people's actual weddings, seemed to pause as family members strained to hear my answer. Sarah, his bride-to-be, giggled behind her perfectly manicured hand. Her engagement ring caught the light, a 5-carat diamond that had been featured in the society pages of 3 different newspapers. "Oh, Michael, don't put her on the spot. I'm sure Emma did her best with whatever she could afford." My cousin Bradley, 26 and fresh out of law school with a job at his father's firm, couldn't resist chiming in. "Come on, don't keep us in suspense, Emma. What's the big gift? Please tell me it's not another one of those homemade photo albums you used to give us." The laughter that rippled around the table was polite but unmistakably cruel. My mother shot Bradley a warning look, but she was smiling too. Even my father, usually the most diplomatic of the family, was grinning into his brandy snifter. "Actually," I said, setting down my water glass and meeting Michael's eyes directly, "I was thinking of keeping it simple. Maybe just a card like you suggested." The silence that followed lasted exactly 3 seconds before the eruption began. Michael nearly choked on his champagne. "A card? Emma, this isn't a birthday party at Chuck E. Cheese. This is my wedding. Do you see where we are right now?" He gestured grandly at the opulent surroundings. "This is the Grand Meridian Hotel, the most exclusive venue in the city. Sarah's father had to call in favors just to get us this booking." "Now, Michael," my father interjected, though his tone suggested he agreed entirely with the sentiment, "I'm sure Emma didn't mean—" "No, Dad, she needs to hear this," Michael continued, his voice rising slightly as the champagne and the audience emboldened him. "Emma, you can't just coast through life forever. Look around this table. Uncle Richard just made partner at Morrison & Associates. Bradley's starting at Patterson Commercial Real Estate. Cousin Jennifer just got promoted to Senior Vice President at First National Bank. Even our youngest cousin Amy just landed an internship at the mayor's office." He paused for effect, making sure everyone was listening. "And tomorrow Sarah and I will be celebrating our marriage with judges, senators, city council members, business owners who control millions of dollars in commerce. Sarah's father owns half the commercial real estate in this city. Her mother sits on the boards of 4 different charities and the symphony orchestra." Sarah beamed at this recitation of her family's accomplishments. "My parents have been planning this wedding for 8 months. The flowers alone cost more than most people spend on their entire wedding. We have a 12-piece orchestra, not a DJ. The cake was designed by the same pastry chef who did the governor's daughter's wedding last year. And you think," Michael continued, building to his crescendo, that a card fits into that world? Into our world. I nodded thoughtfully as if seriously considering his question. You make an excellent point, Michael. A card does seem rather insufficient for such a grand occasion. Finally, my Aunt Patricia muttered under her breath, loud enough for the table to hear, some self-awareness. You know what your problem is, Emma? This came from my Uncle Richard, Patricia's husband, who'd been drinking heavily and was feeling philosophical. You never learn to think big. You're content with your little life, your little apartment, your little job. There's nothing wrong with that, mind you, but you can't expect to run with wolves when you're determined to stay a sheep. More laughter. Even my mother was nodding approvingly at this bit of wisdom. I pulled out my phone, a gesture that made several family members roll their eyes. My phone was 3 years old with a cracked screen protector I'd never bothered to replace. To them, it was just another symbol of my failure to keep up with their standards. Always on that thing, Bradley observed. Who could possibly be calling you at 9:30 on a Friday night? Let me guess. Someone from your little marketing company wants to discuss weekend overtime. Actually, I said, standing up from the table, I need to make a call. I think you're absolutely right about the card being insufficient. The entire dining room had gone quiet now. Not just our table but the other tables of family and wedding party members. Even the piano player in the corner seemed to sense the tension and let his melody fade into silence. I dialed a number I knew by heart, watching their faces as I waited for the answer. Hello, James. Yes, I know it's late, but we have a situation at the Grand Meridian that requires immediate attention. No, not that kind of situation. Nothing dangerous. I need you to cancel the Henderson wedding scheduled for tomorrow. Yes, all of it. The ceremony at 3, the cocktail hour at 5, the reception at 7. Everything. I don't care about the deposits or the contracts. Just handle it. The color began draining from faces around the table, starting with Michael and spreading outward like ripples in a pond. Emma, my mother whispered, her voice barely audible, what are you doing? Who are you talking to? I held up a finger, continuing my conversation. And James? I want you to personally deliver the cancellation notice to the bride's suite tonight. Make sure they understand this isn't a staffing issue or a scheduling conflict. Make it clear that this comes directly from ownership. Yes, from Grandstone Hospitality Group. Tell them the owner felt that the behavior of the wedding party toward hotel staff was unacceptable. What's that? Oh yes, you can include that detail about inappropriate conduct toward family members as well. Thank you, James. I hung up and smiled at the table full of horrified faces. There. I think that's a much more memorable wedding gift than a card, don't you? Emma, my father's voice was barely controlled. What did you just do? I gave Michael and Sarah exactly what they asked for, I replied, sitting back down and smoothing my discount dress. Michael said a card wasn't good enough for the Grand Meridian's standards. So I made sure they wouldn't have to worry about meeting those standards anymore. Sarah stood up so quickly her chair toppled backward, crashing to the floor with a sound that echoed through the now silent room. You can't cancel our wedding. You can't just call some random hotel employee in. Hotel employee? I looked genuinely puzzled. Oh, Sarah, I think there's been a misunderstanding. James Richardson isn't a hotel employee. He's the CEO of Grandstone Hospitality Group. Grandstone. Uncle Richard's voice trailed off as the implications began to sink in. They own this hotel, I explained patiently as if speaking to children. Along with 17 other luxury properties across 3 states, 2 resorts in the Caribbean, and a rather lovely chateau in France that I'm quite fond of. You'd be familiar with some of their other properties. The Grandstone Plaza downtown, the Meridian Resort where you vacationed last summer, the Ocean View Conference Center where your law firm holds its annual retreats. The silence that followed was so complete that you could hear the soft hum of the air conditioning system and the distant sound of traffic from the street below. That's impossible, my Aunt Patricia finally whispered. You work at a marketing firm. You live in that tiny apartment. You drive that awful car. I own a marketing firm, I corrected gently. Phoenix Digital Solutions. We handle comprehensive digital strategy for hospitality groups, luxury brands, and real estate developers nationwide. Our client list includes about 60% of the major hotel chains in North America, which is how I met James Richardson 5 years ago. I paused to take another sip of water, enjoying the way their faces were cycling through various stages of shock and disbelief. James was so impressed with our work. We increased Grandstone's direct bookings by 340% in our first year, that when they were looking for investors 3 years ago, he offered me the opportunity to buy in. I liked their vision for luxury hospitality, so I acquired a controlling stake. 63% to be exact. Michael's mouth was opening and closing like a fish gasping for air. But that's. As for the tiny apartment, I continued conversationally, that's actually a 12-story office building in the financial district. Phoenix Digital Solutions occupies floors 3 through 8. I live in the penthouse. It's about 4,500 square feet, though I suppose that might seem tiny compared to some people's standards. My mother was shaking her head frantically, as if she could make this all go away through sheer force of denial. Emma, this is insane. This is some kind of elaborate joke. You can't possibly own a hotel chain. Look at your clothes. Look at your car. The clothes are from Target, you're absolutely right, I agreed. I find them comfortable and practical. As for the car, well, that Honda Civic belongs to my assistant Rebecca. She lets me borrow it when I visit family because I prefer to keep a low profile. It helps me see who people really are when they think I have nothing to offer them. James Richardson himself appeared at our table as if summoned by our conversation. He was immaculate in his evening suit despite the late hour, his silver hair perfectly styled, his manner professionally courteous but unmistakably authoritative. Ms. Martinez, he said with a slight bow.